Evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to go back all the way to 2011. I had started Crossexamined back in about 2006, but in 2011, I was doing corporate training for a number of companies around the country, and I was doing that in accordance with Crossexamined. I'd still go to colleges, I was still writing, I was speaking at churches, but in order to feed the family, I was also doing corporate training. And I had been doing that since about 1993 when I moved my family to Charlotte to go to Southern Evangelical Seminary. Anyway, in 2011, I'm doing a series of leadership classes for Cisco. Those are the internet people that do a lot of networking gear. You've heard of them. In any event, I'm teaching a leadership class to people all over the world in Cisco. Some are sitting in front of me. Some are via the internet in remote locations. And about 2 p.m. that day, this was an all-day class, I get a text from the guy who hired me, a friend of mine. And he had said, "Hey, Frank, I got to come talk to you. What time's your class end?" I said, "Well, we're going to wrap up about 5. Why don't you come on over then?" I said, "Okay." So he came a little early, came about 4:30, sat in the back of the room. When the class was over, a few people were talking to me and a few people were talking to Steve. He was pretty high up in the Cisco food chain at the time. And one of the people who Steve was talking to said to Steve, "Steve, this is the best class I've ever taken at Cisco." Steve's going, "Oh, wow. Well, thanks for letting me know." Anyway, Steve goes, "Hey, can we go to another room?" I said, "Sure. What's going on?" He said, "Frank, I don't know how to tell you this, but I have to fire you." I said, "Fire me? For what?" He said, "Well, somebody who is in your leadership class remotely Googled your name and discovered you wrote a book recently called Correct, Not Politically Correct, How Same-Sex Marriage Hurts Everyone." And I'd written that book in 2008. Since then, it's been updated. And so this is 2011. And I said, "Well, what's the problem with me writing the book?" "Well, one of the people in your class identifies as homosexual. And he said that Frank can't work here." He called the HR director up and said, "Frank can't work here because Frank doesn't agree with same-sex marriage." Now keep in mind, this is 4 years before the United States Supreme Court judicially imposed same-sex marriage on the entire nation. Of course, it's not in the Constitution, but that's a whole nother story. In any event, so this is 4 years before all that. And he said, "Frank, I don't want to, but I have no choice. The HR director told me I had to." And I said, "What? In the name of inclusion, tolerance, and diversity, they're not tolerating me and excluding me for holding a diverse view?" Now, Steve's a Christian. He was just upset about it. He was almost in tears. And I said, "Steve, don't worry about it. There's really nothing you can do about it." In any event, we parted. He's still a great friend of mine. And as soon as it was appropriate, a few months later, I wrote the CEO of Cisco a letter, and I FedExed it to him. The CEO of Cisco at the time was John Chambers. And I said, "Dear Mr. Chambers, I'm a veteran of the United States Navy. I appreciate your support for Senator John McCain in the last election." In fact, the reason I said that was because Chambers was on the Elect McCain Commission in California that year, in 2008. So this is a few years later, but I'm just harking back to that time when he was supporting McCain. I said, "Are you aware, Mr. Chambers?" And I explained to him what happened to me. I said, "Are you aware, Mr. Chambers, that John McCain holds the same position on same-sex marriage that I do, and you support him? Are you qualified to be working at Cisco?" Well, I got a phone call that very day from an attorney. And the attorney said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I don't want anything except you call off the dogs of other Christians." I couldn't sue as an employee because I wasn't. I was a vendor. They could fire me for any reason. But I thought it was hypocritical of them to claim that they are champions of inclusion, tolerance, and diversity, yet they weren't open to somebody who held a diverse view, actually the majority view at the time. And the attorney said, oh, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll set you up with a meeting with the head of inclusion, tolerance, and diversity at Cisco, and she can explain this. I said, okay, that'd be fine. So we set up a time to speak to this woman, and Mike Adams was with me, the great Mike Adams, God rest his soul. He's since passed on, as you know. And we were up at Summit at the time, and we had her on speakerphone, and I kept asking her, what does inclusion, tolerance, and diversity mean? And how can you be inclusive, tolerant, and diverse if you are excluding, not tolerating diverse viewpoints? Well, of course, she couldn't answer the questions. She just continued to peddle platitudes at us. And it got so ridiculous that at one point, Mike said, this isn't going well. I go, no, it's not going well, Mike. And I said, so we just said, well, thank you very much. We hung up. And so I said, Mike, we got to go public with this. We just can't let this slide. And so Mike was a very well-known columnist at the time. He wrote the first column called The Cisco Kid, where he explained the whole thing, and then wrote a number of other columns. This had to be, I'd say, probably around June of 2011. You can still see these columns at townhall.com. And then I wrote a column in July of that year called Sex at Work. Do not Google that, ladies and gentlemen. Do not Google sex at work, okay? What you need to do is go to crossexamined.org, go to the blog, and type in sex at work. You will find the article. And basically, my question is, why is corporate America even worried about sex at work? Why are they talking about it so much? Are we supposed to have sex at work? What does it matter what people do sexually outside of the workplace, as long as it's not affecting their job? Why are you pushing some sort of sexual narrative on people? That's really the whole heart of the column. And when you really think about it, there is really no reason for corporate America to be so obsessed with sex. As long as people treat one another with dignity and respect in the workplace, why should a corporation care what goes on sexually, as long as you're not doing anything illegal, obviously? Why? Because this isn't about workplace productivity. This is about pushing a political agenda. Now, keep in mind, this was 2011. Okay, now we here are 11 years later. Do you think it's gotten any better? You think it's gotten any better for people out there? Oh, I forgot to tell you. Not only did Cisco fire me, a few days after we went public, of course, Bank of America fired me. I was about to do a big presentation for them and had done many over the years. And at that point, for me, there was really no going back to corporate America. And so I went with Cross-Examined full time. And thanks to many of you who are donors, thank you for that. Couldn't have done it without you. But this goes to show you the intolerance of the people who say they're fighting for tolerance. I've noticed they're really not fighting for tolerance. They're fighting to impose their worldview. And if you don't agree with it, they will crush you. It's not inclusive. It's not tolerant. It's not diverse. Those are code words for saying, if you don't agree with our values, we will crush you. Now, it's only gotten worse since 2011. And in the early days of Cross-Examined, I would get on the internet quite a bit and interact with people on our blog. I never do that anymore. Why? Because it's gotten more hostile. There are more insults and very little argumentation. It's a lot of heat, but not a lot of light. And so what we've decided to do was to take all that underground, because I still want to interact with people, and I know you do. I still want to have productive conversations with people online, and I know you do. But we can't do it out there in the unprotected internet because people are throwing insults. People don't want to argue. They just want to get snarky. And your employer or maybe your future employer, if they want to think about, say you want to move to a new job, or they just want to check on you on your current job, they'll start Googling your name. They'll start going to Facebook. They'll start going to Instagram. They'll start going to places that you are on the internet and see what you believe, particularly if you're trying to get a new job. Well, can you be protected from that? No, you really can't on the unprotected internet. So what we decided to do was start what we call the Crossexamined Community, which is a place behind a nominal paywall. Nominal, it doesn't cost much, but it's enough to keep out the trolls. It's enough to keep out your future employer, because your future employer is not even going to know you're in this community if you are indeed in it, or your current employer. It's a safe place to ask questions. It's a safe place to be discipled. It's a safe place to disciple others. It's a safe place to express your doubts, to express your fears, or express a new argument that you've come across, or just to ask questions. And so what we want to do tonight is, in a very short period of time, show you what this is about and how you can be involved. And then we're going to go to your questions. You not just about the community. You can ask any question about anything in the chat. So in fact, if you want to start filling up the chat, go right ahead. And after 5 or 10 minutes of showing you what this Cross-Examined Community is about, then we're going to get to your questions. I don't want what happened to me to happen to you, by some employer fishing you out, scoping you out, hunting you down on the internet, and then firing you because you express a Christian worldview. So that's what this is all about. So to learn more about the Cross-Examined Community, and it's only been up kind of in a beta stage for a few months, but we're really sort of kicking it off tonight in a big way. I'm going to bring on my colleague, the great Jorge Gill, and he's going to give you an overview of what goes on there and how you can get involved if you want, and also the free trial period. So let's bring Jorge on. Jorge.
What's happening, Frank? I hope everybody is doing well on the other side of the screen. We are super excited because we really, really believe in what we're doing here at the community. For the last few months, I've been interacting there. All of our staff's been interacting there. You've been very active in the community. We've been doing private live streams. We've been putting a lot of exclusive content, and it's just blossoming. So I want everybody to have the opportunity to take a look and to check it out, and to hopefully become part of our community, because it has all the benefits and it avoids all the issues that Frank just mentioned. But also, it is a community where you can disciple each other, where you can bring each other up, where you can actually create a bond with your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ who are like-minded. So if you allow me, Frank, I just go ahead on and start showing the community and how to get on this community. So right now, what you guys are about to see on the screen is this is the landing page. So the way to get here is super simple. You can do it on your mobile device, or you can do it in your web browser. So what you do is you come to crossexamined.org. You hover over Cross-Examined Community, CE Community right here, and a small drop down menu will show up. You click sign up. Once you click sign up, this landing page will show up. And here, all you have to do is put in your name. And I'm going to tell you something about that button that says try it free, and your email, right? Once you do that, you will be automatically sent to this prompt where you turn your information in. Now, usually we have a 3-day trial, but today we are giving you a discount of for $7.99. You will be able to join. Now, there is no commitment. If you don't like it, if you don't want to be part of it, if you go in and you say, hey, I don't want any of this, just let us know. We'll give you a full refund. But I guarantee you.
Jorge, $7.99, not $799.
Oh, yeah. $7.99. Yeah. $7.99. Okay. But what I'm saying, a month, right? A month. And then that's it for the first month. Or you can go full blown 1 year for $79, which actually you're saving $40. And I'm telling you, you will not want to leave this community. And what I'm going to do, Frank, right now is to show what the community look like. And I'm not gonna bore everybody with staying on the community for too long, because I want us to also get to the Q&A, because we want to answer your questions as well. So what you're seeing right now on the screen is the community. As you can see, this thing right here is like a social media platform. We have an app on the App Store called Crossexamined Community. We also have an app on the Google Play Store, meaning this community is official. You will download the app and you can sign up there as well. As you can see, you can have direct conversations with anybody in the community. You can also post, you can comment, and here you're not subjected to any algorithm that is going to be hiding any of the information that we put over here. Not only we have a board with exclusive content. For example, if you go to the videos, we have our own YouTube like wall for all the videos. We have community exclusive clips with Elisa, with video podcast with Frank, with John McCrader, What Do You Meme? We have Sean McDowell. We have a ton of resources here that you will never see outside on our regular social media. Now, people are going to say, wait. You're going to tell me that you're not putting this stuff on social media? Look, we put a ton of content already out on social media, and this is just an extra bonus to incentivize you to be part of this, because we have to keep the community alive and going. We not only have that, we have videos, we have also blogs that are exclusive. We do live streams inside the community where you will have direct access to people like Frank. He does a monthly live stream. We also going to have people like Melissa Dougherty, Alisa Childers, John McCrae, and a lot of other apologies that are going to be coming to the community to hang out with you. Not only that, you can actually go to the prayer wall and have your community praying for you here. And they can leave you a recorded audio prayer here. In other words, this thing is next level. And it only, right now you can try it out for $7.99. After that, it will be $9.99 a month. But this help us not only continue to fund the community and to upgrade the community, but it will also allow us to create more exclusive content for you. A lot of you guys will not blink twice to support someone on Patreon. This is even better because this is ours. Our code, the code here is ours. We even had hacking attempts already that did not work. Why? Because this is an uncancelable community, meaning that if the servers where this community lives is shut down in 20 minutes, the community will rise back up like Lazarus, baby. So this is what we need to do. We need to come to the community and have a wonderful time edifying each other with the resources that we share and everything that we do at crossexamined.org. So Frank, now we can open it for questions. Yep. Start leaving your questions on the chat, and also please make sure that you put the word question in all caps so our team can actually copy that and send it and funnel those questions through us to our document so we can start doing the the Q&A right now. Frank, give it back to you.
Let me jump into that. Thanks for that, Jorge. And I see some people on the chat on YouTube. Trina, thank you for praying. I see Trina out there quite a bit.
Yes.
So thank you for doing that, Trina. Robbie asked a question: how are you policing the threads to make sure it's civil on the Cross-Examined community? You know, this is the community that Jorge's been talking about. We're behind a paywall. We haven't actually had to do any of that. Well, we see it, but everybody's pleasant because these people are paying to be here. Not a lot, but a little. And they want to be here and they want to interact and have a real discussion about issues. They don't want to hurl insults at one another. They want to learn. And that's what this community is all about. It's a great way to be discipled or to disciple others, and without having to worry about anyone doxing you, without having to worry about anybody outing you or without having to worry about your employer or future employer. They can't see any of this. And also without having to worry about someone taking a great post and putting in an algorithm so nobody else sees it. Everybody on the community will see what you put down. All right, let me go to Steve, who's on Facebook. Steve says, what impact does the recent data from the James Webb Space Telescope refuting the Big Bang allegedly have on the Kalam cosmological argument?
Frank,
yeah.
Frank.
What?
Christianity is not true, and the Kalam has been debunked.
Well, that's what the atheists are saying, but we got an amazing piece of content coming out this weekend, and if you're part of the community, you can catch it on video. So
I'm going now. Go back.
All right, there you go. Yeah, what Jorge's referencing is just yesterday or the day before, I just recorded a podcast with the great Steve Meyer on this issue, so you can hear the entire thing beginning Friday afternoon, because we talk about this issue, because there is one, I'll give you kind of the 2-minute answer to this, and Steve will go into more detail. There is one scientist who, by the name of Lerner, he's an astronomer who back in 1991 tried to say the Big Bang was wrong. And he tries to say that the James Webb Space Telescope has discovered evidence that the Big Bang is wrong. Well, that's not so. That's not so at all. What the James Webb Telescope has discovered is the fact that galaxy formation, that the theorists who put forth the Big Bang say, here's how the galaxies form, they have to adjust, it appears, that theory, because the galaxies appear to be more fully formed than they thought they would be at that age. That's all it affects at this point, is that the theory of galaxy formation has changed, not the fact that there was a beginning. Let me remind those of you that have read I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. Remember, we talk about the surge evidence that the universe had a beginning, second law, universe expanding, radiation afterglow, great galaxy seeds, and Einstein's theory of general relativity. Well, the James Webb Telescope has not affected any of that. The second law of thermodynamics shows the universe had a beginning. The fact that the universe is expanding shows the universe also had a beginning. In fact, the James Webb Telescope actually verified the universe is expanding, not refuted the fact that it's expanding. In fact, some of these galaxies that it can now see in infrared are receding from us so quickly that this verifies the Big Bang explosion and continued expansion of the universe. It doesn't refute it, and Steve Meyer will explain that on the podcast. Also, the radiation afterglow, also called the cosmic background radiation, that has not been refuted. That still stands. The great galaxy seeds has to do with the temperature variations in the radiation afterglow that allowed the galaxies to form in the early universe. There may be some adjustment to that, but I'm not sure yet. There's no change in Einstein's theory of general relativity. It still shows that space-time and matter are correlative, and those things came into existence together. And might I remind you, even if the Big Bang is refuted in the sense that the scientific evidence somehow is overcome by new discoveries, it's not going to change the fact that the universe had to have a beginning, because time had a beginning. Look, if time didn't have a beginning, today never would have arrived. If there's an infinite number of days before today, then this day never would have arrived. So there can only be a finite number of days before today. And if there's a finite number of days before today, whatever created time must be timeless, outside of time. Now, if you're timeless, if you're outside of time, do you have a beginning? No. This is one way to answer the question, who made God? The answer is no one. No one made God. He's the uncreated creator. He's outside of time. He created the space-time continuum, which means that he didn't have a cause. He's outside of it all. So even if the Big Bang turns out not to be correct, you still have a beginning, which means you still have a beginner. Now, I don't know why Christians would be so eager to somehow refute the Big Bang, because when you have atheists saying, look, almost everyone now believes that the universe and time itself had a beginning at the Big Bang, as Stephen Hawking famously said, you should say, Steve, if you're right, that actually helps our view, doesn't hurt our view. It actually shows there was a beginning. So, no, it hasn't refuted the Big Bang at all. In fact, Steve, if you Google, has the James Webb Space Telescope refuted the Big Bang, you'll find article after article saying no. You'll find James Lerner's article trying to say yes, but he doesn't succeed. All right. All right. Let me go to what's a good answer to someone who asks you why Christianity if there are religions older than Christianity? Well, because Christianity is true. It seems to me that there's some kind of moral question or objection underneath this question. And the moral objection is this. Well, if Christianity were true, it should have been the first religion out of the gate, not something that came later, because that would mean that people who lived before Christ didn't have a chance to be saved. And that's just not true. People before Christ are saved in the same way people are saved after Christ. They just don't have the same content knowledge. People in the Old Testament who didn't know that Jesus was the Messiah still were saved by grace by putting their trust in God. So regardless of when Christ came, his salvation is still in place even before he came. It's retroactive to the people prior to Jesus. But the reason that Christianity is the true religion is because the evidence shows that it is. And if you want a really good explanation as to why Jesus came about 2,000 years ago, go no further than to get our friend J. Warner Wallace's book, Person of Interest, because Jim gets into this in great detail and he illustrates it all. As you know, Jim, whenever he does a book, there's always illustrations. And he explains that in the fullness of time, which is what the scriptures say, Jesus came and at 2,000 years ago because there was the Roman roads, a period of peace called the Pax Romana, a virtually universal language, Koine Greek in the ancient Mediterranean, and several other reasons that say this is the fullness of time. Remember, God's working through the free will of human beings, and he knew that the best time to bring forth the gospel and the Messiah was about 2,000 years ago. By the way, anyone wants to ask a question, we got a bunch of them in the chat. I'll try and get to them as many as we can. Just put it in the chat. So just type question in big block letters, big capital letters, and we'll try and get to it. Who are your favorite pastors to listen to? Well, I get a lot out of Tim Keller, and I know some of you are concerned because Tim Keller appears to have a little bit of a leftist view on some racial issues. I have not investigated Keller on that. But I will say that his sermons are extremely good. And I've probably listened to 300 of Tim Keller's sermons, and there's probably only one I don't agree with. Okay. And it had to do with Calvinism. He's a Calvinist. I'm not.
I do say here at home, at the Gill House, we have the Daily Keller. So because it's so good, man, even the ones that he releases on the podcast, you can actually go to Logos and get his sermons, or you can just go to Gospel in Live and get it for like $1, $2, and it is just so enriching. Daily, I have to have my Daily Keller, man. I'm telling you, I love it, man. Yes. Yeah, I was gonna say, do not miss the Naked Bible podcast. I don't know if you mentioned it with Dr. Heiser. Yeah, it's fantastic, man. I was doing other things here, so I didn't catch it. But yes, Naked Bible casket, fantastic. Frank, wait a minute. It looks like your audio went out for some reason. So do not say something. I don't think. Yeah, no, I think it's on my end. So do not panic. Let's go ahead on and fix Frank audio. No, no, no. Just sit there and relax, and we'll get this audio fixed in just a minute. So let's see if we can make it happen. Say something, Frank.
2, 3, 4, 5,
There
6,
you go.
7,
You're
8.
back.
All right. So where was I? I was talking about other podcasts. Oh, here's a guy you can listen to if you like history. It's Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. Dan Carlin is a brilliant historian who, he doesn't call himself an historian, but this guy knows more about history than any 10 people I know. And his podcasts are like 5 hours long, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, his podcast just on the Japanese in World War II, they're like 6 podcasts that are 4 or 5 hours long. So this is a deep dive stuff, but he does a great job telling stories and really getting into the gist of what went on historically. So I would definitely check out Dan Carlin if you're interested in history. Also, let's see. Eric Metaxas sometimes has he always has good interviews. I can't listen to them all, though. Lighthouse Faith with Lauren Green on the Fox News channel. She's the religion correspondent. She's quite good. Natasha Crane podcast. You got to listen to Natasha Crane. You've got to listen to actually Questioning Christianity with Tim Keller is a separate podcast, but it's great for skeptics. You may want to send skeptics to Questioning Christianity with Tim Keller. Of course, every week I listen to Reasonable Faith with William Lane Craig, Renewing Your Mind with R.C. Sproul. I don't get to all these people every week. There's no way you could, but these are people on my feed. Stand to Reason, of course, with Greg Kokel. Let's see. The Unbelievable podcast with Justin Brierley, a debate show, usually very good. And then Undeceptions with John Dixon. I've had John on the show. John's from Australia. He's an historian, does a very well-produced podcast on many issues where he's trying to undeceive ourselves on things that we think are true that really aren't or are just misunderstood. So any of those people are great to listen to. Of course, my friend Michael Brown does a good show every day, Line of Fire. I'm probably leaving people out. Sean McDowell has a podcast. These are all people that you want to avail yourselves of. So check all that out. Okay. If God suffered on the cross, can God suffer? Asked Carlos. Well, God doesn't suffer in his divine nature because he's a divine being, but Jesus certainly suffered in his human nature. Remember, whenever you ask a question about Jesus, you always have to ask 2 questions. Did Jesus suffer, or did God suffer? Well, let me put it another way. Did Jesus suffer on the cross? In his divine nature, no. In his human nature, yes. Did Jesus get hungry? As God, no. As man, yes. Did Jesus know all things? As God, yes. As man, no. This is why some people will say, well, how could Jesus be God if he didn't know when he was coming back? Because you're forgetting that Jesus had 2 natures. He knew when he was coming back as God, but he emptied himself of the privileges of the Godhead while he was on earth, Philippians chapter 2. And he was a human being who grew in knowledge, just like the rest of us, Luke 2:52. But he experienced pain and suffering as like we do, but not as God, just as man. All right, let's see. What else do we have? Is it a 7-day free trial or $7.99? It's a 7-day free trial.
No,
and
no.
if you stay on, it's
no, Frank.
for the first month.
Frank,
What?
no. Today, because of the way the community is set up, today you get $7.99 if you sign up right away.
Okay.
In a week from now, then you can go try it for a couple of days for $9.99.
All right.
So right now you save by signing up right away. And the reason why we had to do it like that, it was because the page couldn't take both, couldn't take the discount or the trial, right? But if you sign up right now and you say tomorrow, hey, I don't like this, we'll give you your money back. No, how do you say it? No, you're not.
No obligation.
No obligation. You're not
yeah.
obligated to stay. But if you want to save today, then you need to, if you don't want to save today, to sign up and you say, hey, I'm going to try for a month. I mean, come on, guys. If you guys still go into Starbucks, that's how much a coffee in those, expensive places will cost you.
Yeah,
so,
one coffee.
Right. So
that's right.
That's what I'm saying. It works like that. We have this set up for today. Instead of being $9.99, is $7.99. Now back to you, Frank.
Hey, Aaron asked a question about New Age in the church. Melissa Doherty is part of our Cross-Examined apologetics team, and she has videos on that on our YouTube channel, but you can also go to her YouTube channel. I think one of her most popular videos has to do with New Age practices in the church. So go over to her YouTube channel and see that. Let's see. What would you say is the best answer? This is Crafty Veteran asks, what do you say is the best answer to a skeptic who thinks the Bible is bastardized? It's been tampered with. The best response is, what do you mean by that? And how'd you come to that conclusion? It's not your job to refute what they say. It's their job to support what they say. See if they even know what they mean by that. What do you mean it's been tampered with? How do you know? Because even atheists like Bart Ehrman are going to say, no, it hasn't been tampered with. Bart Ehrman might say, so the scribes may have tried to change some things, but despite the fact that they tried to change things, we can still reconstruct the original with 99.5% accuracy. And even he admits that none of this affects any doctrine, anything we don't know about. In fact, it's not that we're missing things in the Bible, it's we have too much of the Bible. There's certain things in the New Testament we're not sure if they should be in there, like the end of Mark or the story of the woman caught in adultery. But whether they're in there or not doesn't change any theology. So I would ask people who make claims, the Bible's been changed. Well, what do you mean by that? And what evidence do you have for that? Okay. And even if it has been, even if scribes have tried to deliberately change it, they can't succeed. Why? Because if there are manuscripts spread all over the ancient world and one guy changes one manuscript, we know he's the outlier. We know that all the other manuscripts have it right. He has it wrong. That's how you reconstruct what the original said. So even if someone had an original and all we went off the original and someone could change the original, then we'd have a problem. But this is kind of, I guess, maybe the wisdom of God. Let's not preserve the original. Let's just put copies all over the ancient world, and we can compare the copies. It protects the original because you can't change all the copies. You don't have access to them. You might have access to one original, but not all the copies. So not having an original in an odd way actually protects the text more than if you had it. Let's see. Is $79 a year only available today? Is it, Jorge, or not? That's what Rick asked.
Say that again.
The $79 per year. Can they sign up anytime, or is that just today?
No, that's today. So for today, you get actually $40 off. Why? Okay. Because you're not paying $120 per year if you're paying $9.99. You're actually paying only $79, which $80. So you're saving $40 instead of paying $9.99. So if you go ahead and you hit that $79 today, you're $79 for the whole year.
Can he do that tomorrow or just today?
He can do that. It's gonna stay up for a couple of days because of the way the system is. So if I will say, if you want to join, and maybe if you're on our email list, then you will get an email clarifying this. But the reason we did it like this is because since this is our own community that is built from the ground up, we're still developing and growing. But we wanted to give you an incentive for you to join today. Couple of dollars off on the monthly and $40 off on the yearly. So that's why it is the way it is.
Okay, good. All right. Carlos asks, would you like to debate Graham Oppie someday? Well, someone far more qualified than me to debate Grand Oppie is William Lane Craig, and he's already done it. So you might look up that debate. I don't know much about Graham. I know he's a brilliant philosopher. I know that William Lane Craig would put him in the top echelon of atheists who are philosophers. That doesn't mean all his arguments are good. It seems to be an honest and earnest guy. But I don't know much about him. If someone were to say, hey, Frank, would you debate Graham? We'd have to figure out what the topic would be, and then I'd have to do some research. So I'm always open to doing that. But have you noticed, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I haven't noticed many people debating on college campuses anymore. I mean, the last debate I had, I'm always asked to do debates. We don't organize them. People ask, was 2018 with Michael Shermer. I don't know even if Bill Craig is out there doing many debates anymore. It's a shame. Maybe it's the cancel culture. People won't tolerate debates. Who knows? Let's see. Burge, I don't know if I have that right. God bless you and your family and your ministry, Dr. Frank. Is there a path that will help me to study the Bible and apologetics at a rather fast and urgent pace at home for free? Well, that's a good question. I wonder if there is a free course online. There's got to be a free Bible course online that you can trust. I don't know if anyone knows of one. I know there are free sites for the Bible, like commentaries, Blue Letter Bible. There may be some other ones, maybe a few. You can put that in the chat. That's a really good question. There's so much online now that you can get for free. There's the Got Questions website that has a lot of good Q&As. So if you have questions on certain things, you can go to that website, even an app they have, and type in the search engine the question you have. Now, it's not really a systematic way of learning things, but that might be helpful. Check that out. We have a pretty inexpensive course in a self-paced version you can take. It's called How to Interpret Your Bible. If you go to our website, you can check that out there. Oh, by the way, Harold asked a question about who's our payment processor. We have a Christian payment processor. I'll just leave it at that. So you're not going to get doxxed there. Let's see. David Forrester writes, how do we know that Flavius Titus didn't write the Gospels to pacify Jewish militants? I've never heard that question before. Yeah, that's Titus. Titus doesn't
Flavius
try and
Titus
pacify anyone. Titus is the guy that destroyed Jerusalem. So he's not trying to pacify anyone. He is the guy trying to kill the Jews, not trying to pacify them. So I don't know why that, maybe I'm misunderstanding the question, David. Maybe you could rephrase it in another way. Steve asked why you're not a Calvinist, and it's because I wasn't predestined to be one. No, because I don't think the scriptures teach that. And I also think that it makes God the author of evil. Because if we don't have free will, and God makes all the choices, then he arbitrarily chooses some to be saved and others not to be saved, and nobody has a choice in it. I know that God chooses us to be saved, but he does it in accord with our free will, not against our free will. He always knew when he created this universe that, say, Billy Graham would be a believer and Richard Dawkins wouldn't be, but he's not forcing Billy Graham to believe, and he's not forcing Richard Dawkins not to believe. That way, man is really free, and God is not the author of evil. I had an interview with Leighton. What's Leighton's last name? Why can't I think of Leighton's
Leighton
name?
Flowers. If he
Leighton
goes
Flowers,
to Soteriology 101, and he was killing it the other day.
Yeah,
he was
101.
doing an extremely good live stream there. So come on,
Leighton. Go to Leighton Flowers' YouTube channel. Soteriology 101, if you're interested in the Calvinism, Molinism, Arminian debate. And I actually did a show with Leighton probably 8-9 months ago, and I go into a lot more detail as to why I'm not a Calvinist. Also, my co-author and mentor, Dr. Norman Geisler, wrote a book called Chosen But Free a number of years ago that I think is quite good. You might get that. You also might check out John Lennox's book called Determined to Believe, with a question mark on it, Determined to Believe. Let's see. How do we know which Christian church is true? Well, you mean like denominationally? Well, the one I go to, of course, Gunner. Please, No, we have an entire podcast on why are there so many denominations. And if you can't find it in wherever you listen to podcasts. It's probably was done maybe 2 years ago. It's also in the course, How to Interpret Your Bible. Get the Crossexamined app. The Crossexamined app, you can go way back in the archives and find it. Just go to denominations. Look, I actually think denominations to a certain extent are good, because when I'm talking about denominations that believe in the essentials of the faith, because many of them are just different over worship styles. And people worship God in different ways. And some like a liturgical service. Other people like a more free-flowing service. And so different denominations provide different avenues for people to worship. So it's not all a bad thing. Let's see. Would you be willing to have a full sit-down conversation with an atheist like Matt Dillahunty? One-off questions on a stage really don't fully examine worldviews with no rebuttal. I'm happy to always talk to people about worldviews. The people that I tend to debate, however, have a book. I don't know if Matt has a book, because I don't have time to watch 400 YouTube videos, but I can read a book. So I don't know what Matt's views are on many things. But if Matt wants to have a conversation and he has a book, I'm up for it. I'm up for having a conversation with anyone. And you're right. One-off questions on a stage don't fully examine worldviews with no rebuttal. In fact, questions alone don't create a worldview or don't communicate a worldview. It can take semesters to communicate a worldview. So, and this, of course, is one of the frustrations with social media and comments. You put up a 2-minute Q&A video and people are harping that you didn't say X, Y, or Z. Well, of course I didn't say X, Y, or Z. I've got 2 minutes. I can't say everything. Nobody can. This is why I love what the great John Lennox says when he gets a question. He says, well, I don't have a complete answer for you, but I have a doorway to an answer. Here's just one thing to think about. Then he might recommend a book or a longer video or a course to take, because this stuff actually takes a lot more time than just a couple of minutes. On the other hand, there are a lot of people that can get their specific questions answered in a short period of time, and that's what we try and do. People always ask, what's the hardest questions to answer? And my answer is, most of them aren't hard. They're just hard to answer in 2 minutes.
Right.
That's the real issue. You don't have that kind of time to answer anything fully, especially in a seminar environment when you got a line of people. Carlos asks, what is your opinion of your debate you had with
Frank,
Skeptic?
Give me just a second. I wanted to tell you that another resource for people that do in-depth Bible study is Logos Bible Software. There is a free version that you can download on your... Is there a
free version of Logos?
Yeah, there is a free version. You can just go on the App Store, whether it's Google Play or the App Store on Apple App Store, and download it, create an account, and then you can get free monthly resources. There is a ton of free resources that you can download, and then little by little you can start building your library if you don't want to buy a whole package. It is completely free. For example, the Lexham Bible Commentary is free. It is really, really good. Our mutual friend, Dr. Mike Heiser, wrote the notes for the most of the Old Testament, so it's a great resource right there.
Good. Thanks for that. The question about Cosmic Skeptic, which is Alex O'Connor. 5 years ago, I was in London speaking at a church, and I did a discussion on Justin Brierley's show, Unbelievable. Those of you can find that on YouTube, or you can find it on the Unbelievable podcast. I really like Alex. He seems to be honest in what he's doing. He's very smart. I mean, he was only 18 when we had the discussion. Now I think he's probably about 23. I think he's out of school now. In fact, I just heard a dialogue between he and a gentleman from Switzerland on the Unbelievable podcast, and Alex is starting to investigate some of the Christian arguments for God, even the ontological argument, which he dismissed 5 years ago. And now he's saying, there's a lot more to this than I thought. So, and he's living with a Christian guy. So Alex is open. I'm praying that he continues to move in the direction he is, hopefully toward Christianity. I'm happy to have a discussion with him at any time. Fine young man. I thought we had a great discussion. if you watch the debate, I'll let you decide, who you thought had better points. The one point that I always want to bring up when I'm talking to an atheist, particularly a materialist, is if we're nothing but molecules in motion, why should any of us think anything we think is true? And I think that's a big problem when it comes to materialism. They've made reason impossible, as C.S. Lewis famously pointed out. If we're molecular machines, if we're moist robots, why should we think any arguments for anything are true? And so I think materialism makes a reason impossible. And so that's always what I wanted to bring up with Alex and other materialists that I've talked to. And I don't know if Alex is still a materialist or not, but I think that's an Achilles heel of materialism, and most atheists today are materialists. Josiah, all the way from Australia, writes, I was wondering if sanctification continues after we die. Would we still have free will in the afterlife to grow our spiritual characters? Interesting question. I don't know if there's a definite answer to that I know of. Some will say, no, our character's set by the time we die, and then, of course, we lose the sin nature. So there goes a bunch of the negative aspects of our character right away. I mean, everybody just jettisons that, which is a good thing. But then do we grow further? It would seem to me we could in some capacity, but I'm not sure about that. There's really not a lot on the nature of heaven in the Bible. We know there'll be no weeping, there'll be no crying, there'll be no tears, but can we grow our spiritual character there? Not quite sure on that. It is a great question. I know we will have free will, but we will not exercise free will against God. Or if we do have free will, it'll be modified in the same sense that you have free will when you're married. You chose freely to get into the marriage, and then, according to God, that marriage is permanent, saving some exceptions in this fallen world. But that marriage is permanent. You no longer have the freedom to date anybody else. I don't know about you. When I got married, my dating life took a big hit because now I don't have the freedom to date anybody else. So, but I still had free will inside the marriage, just not the freedom to leave the marriage. You don't have the freedom to leave heaven. You don't have the freedom to sin, but you still had certain freedoms inside the marriage, and you'll have the same kind of certain freedoms inside of heaven, I believe. All right, let's see. Do you think we are getting towards the end? Yeah, we always are. But I don't know when Christ is coming back, and nobody does, because he said, no one knows the day, nor the hour, the times, nor the season. How did Lucifer sin before there was such a thing as sin? There always has to be a first time. And Lucifer just had the desire to try and be number one, and so he acted on it. But you don't need a tempter necessarily to sin. You can sin by just making a choice. There's nothing behind that choice. The buck has to stop somewhere. He just made a choice to try and do things his own way. When will advanced CIA be offered again? Robbie Hall asked. We're working on maybe January or February in California, but don't quote me. We're working on it. Let's see. I'm just going down the list here. I haven't even read these. I'm reading them aloud. Carlos asked, William Lane Craig and Lee Strobel talk about a source before Mark that he used for Christ's passion. What's your opinion on it? I don't know. I haven't heard Craig and Strobel talk about that, unless he's talking about the Q document, which is Quella. It's a German word that means source. And some people are saying that Mark and the other synoptic gospels, Luke and Matthew, may have borrowed or may have used this Q source for writing some of their writings. Whether that's true or not, we've never found a Q document. We've never found a source. They may be trying to say that Q is a common source for these gospels, and that's why you find some common events recorded, even some common language recorded. That's quite possible. It's also possible that they independently witnessed the same events and recorded it that way, although there's some almost exact verbiage between Luke and Mark in some cases, which appears maybe there was a common source. None of this changes whether or not the New Testament's true or whether it's inspired. But sure, there could have been sources. In fact, Luke even talks about sources in the very first section of Luke. He says, "I checked all these things out with eyewitnesses." What are your thoughts of the rapture actually happening? If it happens, we're going to be out of here. If there is no rapture, but Christ just comes and his second coming is just one time, then okay, that's going to happen. And I have friends who believe all different things about eschatology, and I do not take a firm position on eschatology because I got people way smarter than me, even more, or just as conservative with me as me, and they come to different conclusions on this. I mean, I have my leanings, but it's not an issue of salvation, so I don't take a strong position on any of it. Why did God create people he knew would die on this planet and go to hell, asks Armin. Well, God knows what people are going to do regardless of what kind of universe he creates. So the question might be, well, why didn't God create a universe where nobody decided to disbelieve or be an unbeliever? Well, that's logically possible, but it might not be actually achievable with free creatures, because here's one thing that all-powerful God can't do. He can't force free creatures to do whatever he wants, because then they wouldn't be free. And so the question we might ask, is God obligated to not create, because any creation he makes, there's going to be some people who disobey? And I think the answer is no. He's not obligated not to create. He can still create and let people freely make their own decisions. Also, God still gets his will done through people who disobey him. Here's an example. Let's say Richard Dawkins writes the book, The God Delusion. Christian picks it up, starts reading it, and goes, wow, I never thought of that. I better get answers to that. And so he does. The Christian gets answers to it and gets closer to God by reading an atheist book. That happens, okay? So God can still get his will done even through atheists, even through sinners like all of us. God can draw a straight line with a crooked stick, thankfully. Also, another reason God creates people who won't go to heaven, again, they're freely making that choice, is because none of us would be here if there weren't unbelievers. Because if there weren't unbelievers in my bloodline, I wouldn't even be here. So you've got all sorts of people. I have all sorts of people in my bloodline, Christians and non-Christians. I wouldn't be here without them. Billy Graham wouldn't be here without them. Richard Dawkins wouldn't be on this earth without Christians. I mean, so there's a lot of reasons why God creates, knowing people are going to go to hell. But the key point here is he doesn't create against their free will, but in accord with their free will.
Frank,
yeah,
I want to stop the Q&A real quick, just briefly to share some things that people are saying about the community. And
okay, go ahead.
I want to go ahead on and give people, because so many new people have come in, I want to share with them what this live stream is about and the community that we have for them. So we have from Patrick. Patrick said the following. He says, I really like that we can interact, talking about the community, the Cross-Examined exclusive community. Interact with the Cross-Examined team. I enjoy that we are a growing community that encourages each other, inspires each other, and picks each other's brains. Well, minds, right? As well as exclusive content, and all that without worrying from internet trolls. We have our friend David Walcott, and he says, the best thing I love about the new Cross-Examined community is that the ministry leaders regularly engage with the members. It's not just a fan club with occasional scheduled posts, but it is actually an extension of their ministry. And Levi Dade, who is also very active in the community, he says, as an aspiring apologist, I never thought I'd have an opportunity to engage with some of the great thinkers of our time, such as Frank and the entire Cross-Examined team. What I didn't know was that the Cross-Examined community was made just for this. It's for Christians who want and need to be equipped with answers to challenging questions. It's a place where you can post about your concerns with woke culture, postmodernism, progressivism, without the fear of being censored, banned, or ridiculed. Rather, many people from the Cross-Examined family, including Frank, take the time to engage with you and help in any way they can, going as far as reaching out in private messages or emailing you helpful resources. This is the place to be for anyone who wants to think deeply about the world and the Christian faith as a whole. And now this is just the beginning. We are really taking this community to the next level. If you can see, we're going to have subgroups. We're going to have the ability to connect you with people locally so you guys can talk about apologetics. I know that it's very difficult sometimes to find people in your church that love apologetics, who want to be as nerdy as you are, but now the community is going to be able to connect you at the local level. We're going to have subgroups. We're going to have all sorts of interactive resources in here. We're going to be putting exclusive content that don't see the light of day on our social media, because we have so much content. You're going to be able to come over here and just binge watch all this awesome stuff that we're going to have for you at the Cross-Examined exclusive community. So make sure you join today. $7.99 for a month, $79.99 for the year. Or if you want to wait a couple of days, you can always come in, try the free trial, and then pay $9.99 per month, Frank.
It's going to be magic out there.
That's right.
That's right. Did I lose you, man? You still there?
I'm here, man. I'm just giving it back to you, man.
All right, round of applause for that, man. That was good.
Sir. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. So people really know what the Cross-Examined Community is all about. By the way, let's see. We've got a few more questions here. And again, you want to ask a question, just put it in the chat with the big word question. Let's see. Do you believe COVID-19 was an accident or a biblical plague? It hasn't been revealed as a biblical plague, and it may not have been an accident. Gain-of-function research in the Wuhan lab appears to be the case. In fact, just listen to Senator Rand Paul grilling Fauci on that. That's probably what happened, tragically. But that's a whole nother story. Also, you might want to take a look at John Lennox's book, Where is God in a Coronavirus World? Everything John Lennox does, God reads. Just check it out. Let's see. Why would God allow people to go to hell for what they deem as a lack of evidence for his existence? People don't go to hell for a lack of evidence for his existence. They go to hell because they've sinned, and everyone knows they've sinned. So it's not a lack of evidence that's the problem. In fact, in every place I go, I ask people, if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? And you know what most people say? No. It's not. They're not looking for evidence. Most people are looking for God like a criminal's looking for a cop. Okay, they don't want it because they don't want the accountability. Now, is this true of everyone? No, I don't think so. I think if you are seeking, keep seeking, and you will find. Keep seeking, keep knocking. You will find. Remember, if someone were to ask you, how do you know God exists? What I think you ought to say is, I know God by his effects. That's what scientists do. They see an effect, they're trying to reason back to a cause. So if there's a creation, that's the effect. We're reasoning back to a cause, a creator. If there's design in the universe, the fine tuning, and design in life, particularly the genetic code, the 3.5 billion letter genetic code and all the inner workings of the cell, if that's all designed, then we reason back to a designer. If there's a moral law written on our hearts, and there is, we know basic right and wrong, everybody knows it, regardless of whether or not you believe in God, then there must be a moral lawgiver. If we have the ability to reason, if our 3-pound brain can ascertain truths outside of our skulls and then reason to valid conclusions about the real world, there are these laws of logic, these laws of mathematics. If that's all true, what best explains that effect of reason, mathematics, and logic? A mind, an ultimate mind. If Jesus really rose from the dead and did many of the miracles that the New Testament says, even if he didn't do the miracles, if he just rose from the dead, then he predicted and accomplished his own resurrection from the dead, then he's God. That's the effect. We're reasoning back to a cause, a God. So this is what scientists do. They go from effect and they reason back to a cause. And for those of you thinking, well, this isn't science, the greatest science of all time is called the science of theology. Theology is the big umbrella under which all the other sub-sciences fit, because theology covers all the grounds of knowledge. It's the queen of all sciences. And that's how it was developed. Now, since then, since we've got into a secular post-enlightenment world, or a secular enlightenment world where we don't believe in the supernatural anymore, we no longer have theology departments at colleges. What we have are religious studies. So we put it off in a corner when, in fact, theology is supposed to be the overall queen of all sciences. And what we're doing is we're reasoning from effect to cause. Even the greatest scientists, those that discovered modern science or invented the methods of modern science, like Kepler said, when I am looking at cause and effect in the world, I'm paraphrasing, I am thinking God's thoughts after him. That's what he's doing. The reason we can do science is because the universe is orderly and our minds can ascertain that order and draw valid conclusions. So there's plenty of evidence. In fact, when people say there's no evidence for God, I ask them, why is there evidence for anything? I mean, why can I even know that two parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen is going to give me water? It gave me water yesterday. It's going to give me water today. It probably will give me water tomorrow. Why can I even depend on that? Why can I depend I'm going to stay on the ground tomorrow and not float off into space? Because this universe is orderly and the natural laws that govern it are consistent and precise. That is the product of a mind. In fact, they're going in a direction. That's what Aristotle found. That's why he called it the unmoved mover. And of course, he didn't have the Bible. And then in the 1200s AD, Thomas Aquinas comes along and says, all this order you're talking about, all this direction, all this final causality you're talking about, that nature's going in a direction, this is going to be my fifth way to argue for God, that everything is going in a direction. If it's going in a direction, there must be a director. There must be some mind that's pushing all this forward. So I don't think people are going to in any way have any excuse to say, God, I didn't have evidence. You can suppress the truth and no longer think there's evidence. That's what Paul talks about in Romans 1. But that's only after you've made the choice to suppress the truth. Let's see. Why did the authors of the Bible get chosen to write the Bible? Well, I don't know if we have one definitive answer for that, but when it comes to the New Testament, it's because they were eyewitnesses of what Jesus came and said and did, or they knew eyewitnesses. People like Luke knew eyewitnesses. He wasn't an eyewitness himself, but he knew eyewitnesses. In fact, when the apostles had to pick up a new apostle after Judas had died, they said, we got to find somebody who's an eyewitness of what Jesus did. And so they found Matthias. What books can I get to know about Darwinism? The question is, how deep do you want to go, Carlos? If you really want to get into it, you can get anything by Stephen Meyer. Probably his newest book, Return of the God Hypothesis, might cover not just the evolution material, but also cosmology, the creation of the universe, and the fine-tuning. So you may want to check into that. You can also get Signature in the Cell or Darwin's Doubt. If you want a more popular treatment of it, I still think that Jonathan Wells' little book, Icons of Evolution, is easy to understand for anybody. That's quite a good little book. I tried to summarize much of what Meyer said, or some of what Meyer said, with his help, of course, in the book Stealing from God, Why Atheists Need God to Make Their Case. So you may check into that as well. So there are some good resources on evolution out there, and the difference between that and, say, intelligent design. Let's see. Any chance of an East Coast CIA gathering? Seems they're only on the West Coast or middle of the country. Well, we just had it in New York a couple of years ago. I think we may have it in Florida in 24. We're working on that. So keep that in mind. We should probably do that in February, shouldn't we? Rather than August in Florida. Let's see. Unconditional eternal security. Do I believe in that? Yes. One of the reasons I believe in it is because in John chapter 5, Jesus says, he who believes is passed from death into life. In other words, you get eternal life when you believe. You don't get it when you die. And if it's eternal, can you use it? Can you lose it? No. If it's eternal, you can't lose eternal life. Let me say that again. You don't get eternal life when you die. You get it when you believe. And if it's eternal, you can't lose it. In fact, Jesus even says when he's praying in John 17 for us, he says, now this is eternal life, that they, meaning us, he's praying for us, may know you, God the Father, and Jesus Christ whom you've sent. Notice that eternal life here is a quality. It's not a quantity. To know God, not just intellectually, but volitionally. Not just to know that God exists or that Jesus is the Savior, but to trust in Jesus. So yes, I believe in unconditional eternal security. Let's see. Do animals have souls? Dogs do, cats don't. Cats go right to hell. We all know that.
This guy.
There's too many cat lovers. Oh, look, they're all bailing out on me
now. The stream
cats
drops in half.
Clearly demonic, ladies and gentlemen. Dogs will get you your newspaper. Cats, forget about it. They'll scratch your furniture. You know that. Let's see. Would materialism and atheism and nihilism also indicate that our will to live would be illogical and there's no good reason to live? Well, it sounds like you're reading Camus or Sartre, because that's what they said. They were the existentialists that lived in like the atheist existentialists that lived in about the 1960s, early 60s. And in fact, Sartre wrote a book called Nausea. That's what he thought life was. It's absurd. In fact, William Lane Craig has a very good little video on probably his YouTube channel, or maybe his website, reasonablefaith.org, called The Absurdity of Life Without God. You may want to check into that. Yeah.
Always say something. There's a question here on Instagram. And by the way, guys, we're everywhere. We're on Twitter, Instagram. Well, we're on TikTok too, and we are blowing up on TikTok too. So make sure you're there. But actually, we are live right now in Instagram, and there's a question that says, "What are the core essentials for a church to believe in to be a biblically sound Christian church?" It's a good one. Frank, this thing crap out again, so hold it. I gotta hold it. Just went out, so I just gotta keep fixing this thing until I figure out this what. Yeah, they can see you. Talk.
I'm talking. Can you hear?
You're back. Yeah, you're back.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, everybody can hear you now.
All right. Look, I probably read it 3 times already, and you guys, let me see. They're still saying can't hear.
Yeah. It will take about 30 seconds, 45 seconds for them to see it. So by the time you say something, it'll be up.
All right. Anyway, we got the resurrection in here now. According to the Spirit of holiness by his resurrection from the dead, Jesus Christ our Lord. He's the Lord. He's God. You've got his human nature and divine nature right here in Romans chapter 1. Through whom we have received grace and apostleship to bring about the obedience of faith for the sake of his name among all the nations, including you who are called to belong to Jesus Christ. Look at this. Now we've got our mission. We've received grace and apostleship to bring people to the obedience of the faith for the sake of God's name among all the nations. It's the Great Commission in here. You see, you've got basically the inerrancy of the Bible in here, the Holy Scriptures. You've got, first of all, you've got God. You've got the inerrancy of the Bible. You've got the fact that Jesus has 2 natures. He's got a human nature and a divine nature. He is declared to be the Son of God in power according to the Spirit of holiness by his resurrection from the dead. He's our Lord, and we've received grace from him. These are like the essentials of the faith right here. You can also, you can obviously keep reading through that. He gets down to more about the gospel in verse 16, but the first 6 verses of Romans have 4 or 5 or 6 essentials of the faith right there. And then, of course, if you go over to 1 Corinthians, the great creed, 1 Corinthians 15, verses 3 to 8. Oh, come on, man. Go on over there. 1 Corinthians 15. Boom. Here is what he says. For I, first of all, hang on a second. What do I got? The Geneva Bible up. No, I don't need the Geneva Bible. That's hardly English. But that's Old English. I need the ESV. Somehow it went to the Geneva Bible here. Stand by. Here's what he says. Now, I would remind you, brothers, the people at Corinth, of the gospel I preached to you, which you received, in which you stand, and by which you are being saved, if you hold fast to the word I preached to you, unless you believed in vain. For I delivered to you as of first importance that what I also received. Now he's about to talk about what he received, this creed, that Christ died for our sins according to the, well, hang on. Let me just point this out, that this is a creed. Just listen to how many times you hear the word that. In other words, there's a rhythm to it. It's like Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. You know, that whole thing. It's something that you could memorize easily. Even if you couldn't write your name down, you could remember this. And so Paul received this probably as soon as he became a Christian. And then he finally wrote it down in his letter to Corinth. So that's why he says, I received this. Here's what this creed says. That Christ died for our sins in accordance with the scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day in accordance with the scriptures, and that he appeared to Cephas, meaning Peter, then to the 12. Then he appeared to more than 500 brothers at one time, most of whom are still alive, although some have fallen asleep. Then he appeared to James, then to the apostles, and last of all, as to one untimely born, he also appeared to me. And he goes on to say, I'm the least of the apostles. So what you have in here is really the fact that the gospel's right in here, that Christ died for our sins in accordance with the scriptures. He was buried. He was raised on the third day in accordance with the scriptures. And then he appeared to all these people. So you take Romans 1, you take 1 Corinthians 15, 3 to 8. You've got most of the essentials of the faith. Probably the only thing you don't have is that Jesus is coming back to judge the living and the dead. When is he coming back? Well, people argue over that, but that he's coming back. By the way, I think God is leaving his return deliberately ambiguous, so we don't know when. Why? Because if we knew when he was coming, suppose we knew he was coming back in 2024, March 14th, 2024, suppose we knew that. Would that change our behavior? Yeah, it wouldn't be until about March 13th we'd go, oh, Lord. No, it would change our behavior negatively. In fact, it's the same way that the prophecies in the Old Testament were veiled for Jesus. This is what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 2. He basically says that the prophecies were veiled because if they were known beforehand, the powers of this world never would have crucified the Lord of all, never would have crucified Jesus, the Lord of glory, he calls him. Looking back, after Jesus had resurrected from the dead, you look back in the Old Testament, you go, now I see how Isaiah 53 fits in. Now I see how it fits with Daniel 9 and Micah 5:2 and Isaiah 9 and all these passages. You don't necessarily see it looking forward before Jesus comes, but looking back, you go, oh, now it all fits into place.
You know, Heiser says that that's how prophecy works. It's cryptic by design. And whatever is coming, it will be cryptic, and we will. I mean, if it wasn't because we're able to put the thread when we're seeing it in hindsight, we will never, understand it the way we do now. So it's just the way it works. That's divine design.
That's right. Well, think about it this way, friends. Have you ever tried to put together don't go away, Jorge, because I think we're about done almost. But have you guys ever tried to put a puzzle together, a jigsaw puzzle without the box top?
Yeah.
That's really hard, right? You don't know what the picture is, right? You can't quite figure out. As soon as you get the box top, you go, I see where this piece goes, right? Well, think of the New Testament as the box top to the Old Testament when it comes to prophecy. The New Testament events give you the box top, so when you go back and look at the pieces of the puzzle in the Old Testament, you go, now I see where this piece fits in. I didn't see it going forward. All right, I wouldn't have seen it as an Old Testament saint. They didn't see much of it. But now I see how they fit together. Now, just because you don't see how puzzle pieces fit together because you don't have the box top, that doesn't mean the puzzle isn't designed. The puzzle's designed even when you don't see the design. when you get the box top, you go, oh, now I see how it's designed. It's still designed, even if you can see it or not.
Right.
So I think the Old Testament, or I should say the New Testament, is the box top to the prophecy in the Old Testament, particularly messianic prophecy.
I want to say something, Frank. I want to ask you too, because I just got some good news that some of the work that we were doing on the back end for some educational materials are almost completed. And I want you to tell people what we have been working on for years that is going out soon for all to be able to be part of this.
Yeah, you guys need to know about this. We've been working on this literally for years. We wanted to get the I don't have enough faith to be an atheist material, the method of teaching I don't have enough faith to be an atheist at every age level. So now we have it for ages, or for grades 2 to 5. That's one curriculum. Another one is ages 6 to 8. And the current curriculum goes high school and up. So now we got virtually every age group covered. And the 2 to 5 curriculum, grades 2 to 5, is available right now. If you go to crossexamined.org, click on store, you will see it. Or better yet, let me do this. This will be much clearer. Go to crossexamined.org, click on resources, and look for apologetics curriculum in that menu. And then my wife and I and others, we've been up, literally, I was up till 3 a.m. last night editing a curriculum for the 6th to 8th graders. Shanda Fulbright, there it is right there.
There it is, baby.
Yeah, Shanda Fulbright is teaching that. That's an online course which starts September 26th for 6th to 8th graders. Parents, you can be a part of, you can have your kids a part of that. At the same time, we're starting Why I Still Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, the online course, that same day. So if you want to take that in tandem with your 6th to 8th grader, your middle schooler, your junior higher, you can. You can take the adult course while they're taking the 6th to 8th grade course, and you can talk about that and reinforce the ideas. So that's all going to be available by September 26th. The grades 2 to 5 is available now. The online course for the 6th to 8th graders will be available the 26th. And so will, if you want to do it yourself, there's going to be a hard copy. You don't want to do it online, you can do it yourself. That'll be available probably about that time in September as well.
Right.
And of course, the Why I Still Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist curriculum is available at all times.
You can just go to teach.crossexamined.org and all the info is going to be there. That's exactly what you're seeing right here on the screen. And also, before we go, guys, I got to give you another tour of the
Hey, wait, go back, man.
Well,
that was Columbo. Did you see Columbo?
Yeah. Look, we even have, hold on. We even have, let me see, right there. We even have, we even have Greg Kokel right there on the screen. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, that was at CIA. So we just have so much awesome stuff, man. So much awesome stuff. What happened? You're out of frame? No, you're good. I think you're good. I don't know. Something look funky here. You're good to go. All right, let me see. You're back. Yeah, now you're out of frame. I touched something, but you're good to go.
All right, man. Well, why don't you close this out, man, and we'll you just sign off and we'll see him here next time.
All right.
Give him the final details on the Cross-Examined Community.
All right. So guys, again, I want to just let you know this is an amazing place. You want to be there. If you want to support us, because this will support the ministry as well. After everything is said and done, the community is going to continue with the resources that you pay to come in, but also it helps us to create more resources and to continue to expand our ministry. Remember that the work that we do here is important. That's why you're watching. It is definitely essential for the cultural moment that we're living in. We need to be at the front line, and that's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what Frank is doing on the college campuses. So make sure that you join. It is really affordable. And it is incredibly just edifying to be part of this community. And you don't have to be afraid of being canceled. So with that being said, thank you all. God bless you. And we'll see you next time. Maybe I can convince Frank to do another Hope One show sometime this year. All right, guys. God bless. See you later. Bye-bye.